Lesson 103. Direct objects, this time in Greek. So, Catherine, we've given our listeners a very good introduction to the grammatical terms, the different functions, the different grammatical ingredients that go into the kinds of sentences that we're talking about here. But it's all been in English. Now it's time to go to ancient Greek and see how these concepts are going to play out in ancient Greek. We're going to have to change the endings of nouns, right, to indicate what those nouns are doing in the sentence. So now it's time to talk about some nuts and bolts of Greek grammar.
Right. And this is one of the big things that differentiates ancient Greek from English, is that in ancient Greek, the function of a noun in the sentence, what the noun is doing in the sentence, is shown not necessarily by word order, because we've talked about how flexible ancient Greek word order is, but by the endings of the nouns. So this is very different from most English words where we depend on word order. We don't depend on the endings of our nouns to tell us what they're doing in the sentence.
Or we could have little helper words like a preposition that's showing action being done to something. We have different little tricks in English.
Right.
Prepositions, word order. We do have case some. We have him and her.
Some.
He and him. So we have a little bit of case that we've inherited from probably Germanic languages, but not to this degree.
Mm-hmm. And it's much less common. And even when our endings change, we don't depend on that for meaning necessarily.
So, Catherine, in the last lesson, we saw the word dog being a direct object and being a predicate nominative. But in each case, the word dog was the same word, D-O-G. The noun itself did not change as far as its form was concerned. Its form or its spelling did not change between being a direct object and being a predicate nominative.
Exactly.
But in Greek, here's the big difference. In Greek, we're going to see a word actually change spelling depending on whether it's a predicate nominative or a direct object. And the way that spelling is going to change is the ending. We're going to change the ending as a way that indicates what that noun is doing.
Right.
And we have a few example sentences here to help unpack this for our listeners. So let's take a look at the word georgos, which means farmer, and let's see what happens to this word when it's a subject, when it's a direct object, and when it's a predicate nominative. Let's see how that ending changes. And this will be a good grammar lesson as we start to have sentences that include a direct object. In the next few lessons, we're going to have action verbs. So in this book, so far, they know verbs of being, and they know a couple of action verbs, but we haven't used any of those action verbs with a direct object. We've only been saying, like, I run or I read. We haven't had sentences that include a direct object, like I read a book. In the sentence, I read a book, the word book is a direct object.
Right.
So we have not yet had that kind of sentence. But now that we're learning about direct objects in Greek, we can start to have a sentence like that in which an action verb is performing action on a noun. And so we have to learn how to formulate that kind of sentence in Greek. We have to learn how to make a direct object in Greek. So let's take a look here at some example sentences. We're going to mix together English and Greek just for learning purposes. And so we have the word farmer as sort of a test subject here, right? The farmer is going to be in different forms. So what about this first one, Catherine? We have ho georgos has a horse. What's happening there?
There, ho georgos is the subject of the sentence. And so it has that form that we've seen for most of the book, ho georgos. Ho and the os ending on georgos both signal that it is serving that function of a subject in the sentence here.
And so the spelling of that word is the same as we've always seen it. The ending is Omicron Sigma, as usual, so Georgos.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're going to see a whole new function for this word. We're going to make the word farmer into a direct object. And so we have our next example sentence, and we have a couple of things to talk about. What's happening there, Catherine?
So here, the article and the noun have both changed because of the direct object function that they're serving in the sentence. Ha changed to ton, and the ending os, Omicron Sigma, changed to on, Omicron Nu, because those are the forms, the spellings that we need in order to signal that this is a direct object.
So according to the rules of Greek grammar, if you make the farmer the direct object, you must change the ending to show that. You have to have omega nu as the ending. You can't just leave it like it was before. You can't say, I see ho georgos. You can't do that. You have to change the ending to this special form that indicates that that particular noun is a direct object.
Right.
So
otherwise, it's not a sentence in Greek.
So there's a correlation here between the function of the word and the ending that it has. This is a huge concept that our listeners need to get. And also, as you mentioned, the article changes too. We have ton. And so if this were a complete Greek sentence, it would say, I see ton georgon, not I see ho georgos. That would not make any sense in Greek.
Right. We also could not say, I see ho georgon. The article and the noun have to agree.
That's another excellent point. So quick review. If it's the subject of a sentence, then you can have ho georgos. But when it becomes the direct object, you have to change the ending and you have to change the article. So it becomes ton georgon. The function of the noun is reflected in its spelling. That is particularly the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Catherine, one more important thing to talk about. What if the farmer is a predicate nominative? What if you're just saying, Fred is a farmer, or like our example sentence here, that man is a farmer, or he is the farmer? What happens then? What happens if Georgos needs to be a predicate nominative?
In that case, we keep the same form as if it were the subject, even though it's not the subject, it's a predicate nominative. So it's ho Georgos. It is not a direct object, so we cannot say the man is ton Georgon. That does not work. We have to say that man is ho Georgos. So we keep the ho and we keep the os ending because it's a predicate nominative. And this is where, going back to that idea of a verb of being like an equal sign, it's not changing the noun at all. It's that man is equals ho Georgos. Both sides are the same.
And also I would point out that you're not doing anything to the farmer that would make it turn into a direct object. The omega nu ending, that's only for when it's a direct object. If you're just saying someone is a farmer, you're not doing any activity to them. You're not seeing them or bumping into them or hitting them or anything. So there's no reason for that word to have the direct object ending.
Right.
That Omicron Nu ending, we might refer to that as the direct object ending. We'll have other names for that in the future. For right now, just think of it as a direct object ending. But no one's doing anything to the farmer, so there's no reason for him to have a direct object ending. So, quick review. When the farmer is the subject of the sentence, it's ho Georgos. When it's the direct object, the ending changes to Omicron Nu, and you get Georgon. And by the way, the definite article changes to ton. And then if it's a predicate nominative, it stays as ho georgos. So this is a really important thing for our listeners to grasp. The idea that the function of a noun in a sentence is reflected in the ending. We change the endings in Greek. We change the endings of nouns to show what function they're doing in the sentence. That's a big, huge, important concept. The endings of nouns change to show what they're doing. So, Catherine, in these exercises, the reader of the book has really two tasks to perform. First, they have to figure out which one fits into the sentence. They have two choices. They have to figure out which one fits and then give a reason why. So it's kind of a twofer. They have two things to do.
Mm-hmm.
They have to give a reason for their choice. And really, the reason is basically just identifying what role that word is playing. Is it the subject? Is it the direct object? Or is it a predicate nominative? So I think this is a good exercise to help our readers solidify this concept.
Definitely.
And by the way, in each exercise, it's the farmer, the georgos, and so you have to figure out, is it georgos or georgon? That's really the choice you have to make. Is it that Omicron sigma ending that's associated with being the subject or being the predicate nominative, or is it the Omicron nu ending that's associated with being a direct object? So let's go over number one, just for practice. The farmer here is plowing the field, and so we have to pick. If the farmer is plowing the field, grammatically, what would be the correct way to have that in a Greek sentence? Would we say ho georgos is plowing the field, or ton georgon is plowing the field? What do you think, Catherine?
So here, I would say it's ho georgos because the farmer is the subject of the sentence. He's the one doing the action of plowing. And so we need the subject function, which is reflected in ho georgos.
Right. In that particular sentence, it's the subject. There's nothing being done to the farmer. There's no action being performed on him. So he's not the direct object. If he were the direct object, then you'd need ton georgon.
Mm-hmm.
But not in this particular example. What about number two?
In number two, the sentence is, I am the farmer. So here, we need a predicate nominative because we have a verb of being.
Which one could it be?
In that case, we need ho georgos again, because ho georgos is not only the form that reflects the subject, but also the form that shows predicate nominative.
Right, because the verb here is a verb of being. I am, it's just someone being a farmer. There's no one doing any action to a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason for it to have the Omicron nu ending that's associated with direct objects. But in number three, we have an action verb. We have I saw. The subject is I. The verb is saw. And that's, grammatically speaking, that's an action verb.
Right.
And who did the person see? They saw the farmer. That makes the farmer the direct object. And so now we need to have ton georgon. I saw the farmer. We need to have the farmer, the word for farmer, in its direct object form. So we change the ending to Omicron nu. We change the article to ton, and we get I saw ton georgon, because ton georgon indicates that it's the direct object. The action is being performed on the farmer. The farmer is the target of the activity, therefore the direct object.